at a time the federal government is closed and Donald Trump has literally destroyed the East Wing of our White House to put his ballroom up for $250 million. We are now days away from eliminating food to 5.5 million Californians around Thanksgiving, at a time when food prices have never been higher because of Donald Trump's policies. Have you had a cup of coffee? Have you bought a pound of beef? At the same time, he found $20 billion to send to a fill in the blank. Maybe he's a dictator. Some have referred to him as that. In Argentina, he's cutting food to people around Thanksgiving. You've seen the lines of people already around the food banks. So we are fast-tracking an $80 million investment. We're front-loading it to get them to food banks. And we're using the framework that we established during COVID to build out our capacity to deliver quickly food to those in need around Thanksgiving by using Cal Volunteers and the National Guard, which is exactly what we did to distribute 800 million meals during COVID.
I'm sure all of y'all are aware that there has been these court battles involving Governor Gavin Newsom of California, President Donald Trump, and Secretary of War Pete Hegseth over the National Guard in California. Originally, Trump tried to federalize the National Guard in California to deal with the massive illegal immigration issue there. Well, Newsom in June did a court, sued Trump, took him to court. It was a district court, local district court, and won, but it was like a temporary win. Well, the government, the federal government, appealed it, and I believe it was earlier today. I don't think it happened yesterday. If it was yesterday, it was the end of the day. I'm pretty sure it was this morning. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals ruled in Trump's favor, and so the National Guard can be activated in California. They can be federalized. So Trump won that one. Gavin is furious and fuming over it, and he is threatening to take it back to court again. He's wanting to take it all the way to the Supreme Court. So we'll have to wait and see how the Supreme Court rules before we know the final outcome. But right now, as it stands, Trump won the case.
Wow, look, future President Gavin Newsom is once again acting presidential while the Cheeto in charge literally posts memes of himself pooping on Americans, and despite claiming to be a deal maker, refuses to talk to the people he needs to make a deal with. Newsom is deploying the California National Guard not to terrorize local communities, but on a humanitarian mission to support food banks so that low-income Californians don't starve. Oh, and fast-tracking $80 million in emergency funding to make sure that food banks continue to be stocked. See, because of Trump's government shutdown, people who get SNAP benefits aren't going to have any money on their cards to be able to buy food come November, which means that there's going to be a huge influx and increased demand on food banks, which means that they're going to need more volunteers, more people staffing them, and more food in those food banks to make sure that people don't go hungry. See, this is what a leader does. They don't sit in their golden room building their ballroom and making plans for their Arc de Trump while their citizens go hungry.
All right, if you have seen me on this channel before, you know that I have screamed relentlessly about Donald Trump's very clear cognitive decline. And it's something I'm passionate about because so many people who screamed about this supposed cognitive decline of Joe Biden for the last 4 or 5 years, anytime he did anything, are silent about the fact that the oldest president of the United States is walking around like an orange buffoon, posting AI videos, defecating on the American public. He's having press conferences where he rambles more incoherently than ever and is often forgetting the names of aides close to him, or if he's having press conferences with leaders around the world, forgetting their names. It's nuts. And we have a few new clips that I want to show you really quickly. If you don't know who I am, my name is Chris Mowry. I'm filling in for Adam Mockler on the Adam Mockler channel. If you enjoy this type of content, there is a link to my YouTube channel in the description down below. I obviously am in a studio now, which is pretty cool. I've been spending a lot of time trying to make the videos on my channel more professional, look better for you guys. So it would mean a lot if you checked out my channel, maybe hit subscribe and hit like. On this channel, we're trying to build something big to punch back against MAGA media, this Republican media atmosphere that has been pumping so much disinformation onto the American public. If you want to be a part of this community and help us grow, all you have to do is hit subscribe down below. It goes such a long way. Let's start here at Gavin Newsom's press conference, which was about them lowering the price of insulin, them being California. We'll get into that in a second. He went off on Donald Trump and his cognitive decline. Let's take a listen.
As it relates to Donald Trump, he seems less interested in the law. It's a clear violation of the law under posse comitatus to send the military to do domestic policing in the United States of America, period, full stop. Anyone, even without a law degree, knows that, and most federal judges have adjudicated accordingly, only to see some sand in the gear put at the appellate level as we await ultimately the determination from the United States Supreme Court. But we have been very aggressive and in our efforts in pursuit of the rule of law and justice as it relates to these illegal acts of the president. His latest assertion that he was going to come to San Francisco, on what basis? He didn't even claim. There's no pretext anymore. Let's disabuse ourselves that there has to be a pretext with Donald Trump, that there's anything that would justify that. There's no existing protest at a federal building. There's no operation that's being impeded. I guess it's just a training ground for the President of the United States. It is grossly illegal. It's immoral. It's rather delusional. And increasingly, this president appears unhinged, unmoored by reality and facts. Seems listless. He seems, dare I say, in decline, cognitively and, dare I say, forgive me, perhaps unfair, physically.
California Governor Gavin Newsom went for the knockout punch against Donald Trump during a press conference he delivered yesterday. Before the press conference, he also held an incredible event with former President Barack Obama. But this press conference was a masterclass, how you stand up to Donald Trump, how you speak with moral clarity and moral authority, and what it means to show power and strength against this Trump regime. Watch Governor Newsom right here talk about how we all know that Donald Trump is a broken man. But the people who also need to be held accountable are the sycophants who surround him and allow this to take place. Here, play this clip.
Donald Trump's a broken man. He's trying to break this country. Everybody knows that. But to see people in positions of power and influence do absolutely nothing when they must know better, and I believe they do nothing, boy, they're going to have a lot to reconcile at the pearly gates.
Then Governor Newsom talks about how Donald Trump's demolition of the East Wing of the White House is a perfect symbolism for what Donald Trump is doing to our country. Play this clip.
The federal government is closed and Donald Trump has literally destroyed the East Wing of our White House to put his ballroom up for $250 million. We are now days away from eliminating food to 5.5 million Californians around Thanksgiving, at a time when food prices have never been higher because of Donald Trump's policies. Have you had a cup of coffee? Have you bought a pound of beef? At the same time, he found $20 billion to send to a fill in the blank. Maybe he's a dictator. Some have referred to him as that. In Argentina, he's cutting food to people around Thanksgiving. You've seen the lines of people already around the food banks.
Next, Governor Newsom talks about Donald Trump's disastrous tariffs and how it's harming farmers, construction workers, manufacturers, how it's causing prices to dramatically increase for consumers, how everything is far more expensive and less affordable right now. Watch Governor Newsom. Let's play this clip.
We are currently experiencing one of the largest tax increases in American history, with tariff rates that are higher than they've been since the 1930s. A state that is disproportionately impacted by these errant policies by the administration, the $100,000 H-1B visas. No other state more impacted than the state of California. The impacts in terms of the sand in the gear that the president is putting in our university system, the assaults on National Institute of Health, National Science Foundation, and other grants. This is code red from an economic perspective.
Then Governor Newsom holds up the draft lawsuit all ready to go to be filed against Donald Trump and his regime should Donald Trump invade San Francisco with a military invasion. Here's what Governor Newsom says. Watch this powerful moment. Play this clip.
We're going to be fierce in terms of our response. We're going to be focused, and quite literally, this is the lawsuit that I will file within a nanosecond of any efforts to send the military to one of America's great cities, San Francisco, that is enjoying 60% reduction in homicide, or rather homicide reduction that's the lowest it's been in 60 years.
Gavin Newsom fires back at President Trump and says there's not a spigot that can be turned to solve all the water problems. That doesn't exist in California. Y'all like the video and check this out.
When people believe such misinformation, and I don't mean it in a malign sense, maybe the president just doesn't know that there's not a spigot that can be turned to solve all the water problems that he alleges exist that don't exist as it relates to the state water system here in Southern California.
So we're less than 24 hours away from his visit. You're saying you haven't had any contact with the White House at all?
Well, I haven't. I'm grateful, though, that he took our invitation to heart. And that he will be here tomorrow. It's my understanding. I look forward to being there on the tarmac to thank the president, welcome him, and we're making sure that all the resources he needs for a successful briefing are provided to him.
Like water?
There's no limit to the resources we'll provide for that briefing, and as I say,
like
grateful
water?
that he appears to be coming
you
up.
Plan on talking to him tomorrow?
Well, I certainly plan on being there at the tarmac, and look forward to continuing to work not just with him, the administration, as it relates to the disaster recovery, as it relates to our efforts to collaborate with multiple federal agencies over the course of the next many years.
Let me know what you think about that in the comments. Make sure you like the video. Hit the follow button too. It's over here somewhere. And I'll see you all in the next one.
Specifically coming from Gavin Newsom, I just find this extremely hypocritical. I just can't imagine being a logical thinker in the state of California knowing my money is being spent on rebuilding the state capitol while my governor is ripping into the president for doing the same thing on a much smaller scale for the White House, and that project is privately funded, so no taxpayer dollars are being spent on that project. Let me know what you guys think.
I think podcast equipment needs to be more expensive. I think there are too many people who only read headlines and think they're sharing the news. I think you need to quit. That's what I think. I just think it's weird that you talked about logical thinkers and also mentioned no tax dollars will go to pay for the White House renovations. I mean, that's jacked up on a couple different levels. So if it were true that they're not using taxpayer dollars, then that would mean the money's coming from his donors. You think it's a good idea for wealthy donors to be giving him money? You think it's a good thing? These wealthy people don't want anything in return, right? The same people that Trump gave trillions of dollars in tax breaks to, the same people that he gave deregulations to. But they're just going to give him money for free. So no tax dollars means bribes. Wow, that's awesome. And also, Trump lies about everything. He said no tax dollars, yet he's asking for $230 million from the DOJ. Where do you think those dollars come from? I'm sorry, but if you ever went with Trump said as evidence of anything, you're going to fail miserably as a reporter or a journalist or whatever you're trying to be. As for the renovations of California State Capitol, those need to be done. It has outdated infrastructure, the plumbing, there are asbestos issues, it's non-compliance with Americans with Disabilities Act, and they use materials to build it that wouldn't even last 50 years, almost 75 years ago. But you know what gets me? People who talk about logical thinkers who think Gavin Newsom would actually mock someone about something that he'd be doing himself. Gavin Newsom is sharp as hell. There is no way he would mock Trump for something that he's doing himself. That's just stupid to even believe that. What am I getting at? This is Gavin Newsom's inauguration, January 7th, 2019. The renovations was voted on in 2018, before Gavin Newsom was in office. And now the fun part is waiting to see your reaction. Are you going to make a retraction? Do you really care about the news and the truth? Or are you going to ignore this because you really had an agenda? We're going to find out soon, aren't we?
Gavin Newsom is in the news again for calling Donald Trump fat. And he recreated Donald Trump's meme where I can't believe this is a real thing, where he's shitting on the American people. Only Gavin Newsom did one better. Can't wait to show you that. And Mike Johnson is in the news for not taking a question seriously, really just crumbling on stage because he's caught between a rock and a hard place. Something bad happened to a Democrat, shouldn't happen to anyone, Democrat or Republican. And he also needs to make sure Donald Trump doesn't get mad at him, because Donald Trump is the only reason why Mike Johnson is speaker. You're going to see that in his answer. And we have more MAGA violence, of course, is MAGA violence. But first, let's go to the fun part. Now, the Trump administration said, iconic, 1 year ago, Donald Trump worked at McDonald's.
A lot of fun here, everybody.
Oh my God! Oh my God!
Look at all the fake news of it. Hello, everybody.
You can fake this, right?
And you know this is compliments of Trump, okay?
Yes, thank you.
I actually don't think Donald Trump paid. I think they were reporting that Donald Trump didn't pay for anything when that happened. Regardless, the Trump War Room wanted to comment on this, and they did. Gavin Newsom did one better. This is one of the best. I know it seems silly. It's one of the best ways to fight authoritarianism. They want to feel so big. They want to feel so big and powerful. You got to shrink them down. I guess not literally. Hard to shrink Donald Trump down, but you got to shrink them down in stature. Puncture their ego. This is one way to do it. Here's another way. Now, of course, Donald Trump, I'm not even going to play the video where he...
You're being lied to every single day. Not once, not randomly, but systematically. And the truth isn't hidden either. It's buried under so much noise that you can't even recognize it. And that's the strategy. I'm going to give you something right now that's going to help you protect your most lethal weapon, your sovereign mind. Because when you can think straight, you can live free. I was talking with retired General Blaine Holt on his Dangerous Intellectuals talk show yesterday. We broke down the loops and the signals in today's narratives and the way that propaganda repeats like clockwork. Let's take Trump in the White House construction as an example, right? The media acts like he's the first president to change something in the White House, and they're making a big deal out of it. But the truth is different. Teddy Roosevelt built the entire West Wing. Taft made the Oval Office oval. FDR added a wing and a pool for himself. Truman, he gutted the entire building. And Nixon, he put a bowling alley in for himself. And Obama, a basketball court for himself. Trump, he's putting a ballroom for the people, representation. And he's the villain. That's narrative. That's narrative warfare. You see the pattern yet? The same thing with the so-called 7 million marching against monarchy. 7 million? Well, there was fake videos, proof of the opposite, and eyewitness reports to refute the 7 million. The number isn't even the point. The point is the loop. Inflate, echo, entrench. This isn't news. It's a fractal or a fiction meant to overwhelm and manipulate you. And then there's the EU. Ursula von der Leyen, my favorite person. She says, we want peace. But in the next breath, we won't talk to Russians. So which is it? You can't claim peace and refuse diplomacy. That's escalation disguised as what? Virtue. You think this is random? It's not. Every reel, every headline, every emotional speech, it's all tuned to your bias frequency. This is psychological warfare, and if you're not filtering for it, you're caught inside of it. If you cheer when the other side suffers, rage when your side is criticized, or share memes without checking facts, you're already in the trap. If news makes you feel smarter than them, that's manipulation. If you can't hold opposing facts without spiraling, that's programming. The fractal here, division. It repeats and repeats. And as long as it repeats, we can't connect. And if we can't connect, we will never win. This isn't about right or left, guys. It's about control through confusion. And that's why this video, this message, and this reel right here is the tool. Because once you recognize the loop, the signal, the manipulations, you stop reacting and start thinking. And here's the truth. We don't even know the whole truth. But we know when something isn't true, don't we? And those who question it, they're not extremists. They're awake. They're the ones feeling the pattern shift beneath the noise. That includes you, because if you've made it this far in this video, you're already waking up. So share this. Do me a favor. Not because I know everything, but because once enough of us resonate, the whole system has to recalibrate. So stay sharp, stay sovereign, and stay the signal.
We have bombshell news right now. Donald Trump and the Trump administration are working secretly behind the scenes to take over upcoming elections, take control of elections ahead of 2026 and 2028, potentially even invoking national emergency powers to take control of these elections. And I need to talk about it right now because not many people are. So please like, comment, share, and subscribe so that people hear what I am saying. So a new New York Times report came out today, which shows that Donald Trump's allies, many of whom pushed the 2020 conspiracy theories, are now deeply embedded inside the federal government, and they're planning to potentially rig the 2026-2028 elections from the inside. Heather Honey, a former leader in Donald Trump's election integrity network, now holds a key position in the federal government directly overseeing election integrity at the Department of Homeland Security. She has openly discussed, according to reports, using the president's emergency powers to override state laws, strip Congress of oversight of elections, and turn debunked fraud claims into official federal policies. At the same time, other election integrity network trained activists like Marcy McCarthy are actively being installed in federal roles across the government, and Trump-aligned groups on the outside are now pushing this U.S. Citizens Election Bill of Rights, which is essentially a far-right blueprint that would restrict mail-in voting, purge voter rolls across the country, and override the certification of local election boards. Now, that is significant because that is essentially the Project 2025 version, but for voting. Project 2025 version for elections. And it's not just a theory. It's happening, and it's happening right now, and the New York Times is slowly exposing it. So it was the main story on most of the day's page today, and people need to know what is happening in the country. So let's talk about the key players in this election stealing, election rigging scheme. The first, her name is Heather Honey. She's the Deputy Assistant Secretary for Election Integrity at the Department of Homeland Security. She previously ran the Pennsylvania arm of the Election Integrity Network and testified in Kari Lake's election denial case. Remember Kari Lake? She's currently runs the Voice of America, but she previously claimed that her election when she ran for governor of Arizona was rigged and sued a bunch of times, lost every single time. Well, Heather Honey testified in that case. Heather Honey has advocated and amplified false claims about